Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm going to do a movie review today. It's been a while, it's been a few months since I've done a movie review. In earlier videos, I was starting with some early science fiction films from the 50s and 60s and worked my way through the 70s, and now I'm up to the 80s, and now I'm up to the year 1985, so kind of covering the sci-fi cinema of the second half of 1980s. Not covering all the sci-fi releases, of course, but trying to hit the highlights. Occasionally, maybe touch upon a film that isn't talked about a lot. So that's really what I'm doing with this series of videos. But today I'm going to talk about a fairly well-known film, and that would be Terry Gilliam's Brazil from 1985. This film, as I said, directed by Terry Gilliam. I talked about Time Bandits, his earlier film he had done earlier in the 80s. This is a very ambitious science fiction film. Brazil is a dense film. It's a dystopia film. There's elements of romance and comedy and action sequences and big ideas and themes. So there's just a lot to cover with this movie. I'm just going to kind of give a sketch. I'm not going to go into a deep dive of all aspects of Brazil, but I'll just try to hit upon some of the highlights with the film. I should mention at first, Gilliam wrote the film. He worked with a few writers. Later, he brought in Tom Stoppard, the famous playwright, helped him flesh out the script for Brazil. The cast of the film, we have Jonathan Pryce in the lead role as Sam, who is a bureaucrat in this near future. I'll talk more about the setting of the film, but he's a bureaucrat in the system. He just wants to be left alone. He doesn't really hate his job, but then he gets a promotion, and as he starts to see more of the problems and corruption with the system, he starts to change. He falls in love with Jill, played by Kim Greist, a woman he keeps seeing in his dreams, and so that's the love story part of the film. He has a troubled relationship with his mom, who is obsessed with plastic surgery, which is another running theme throughout the film about what people do to their bodies in order to try to look better. That's kind of a side theme. Robert De Niro is also in this as in a minor role as Tuttle, who is a air conditioner repairman, but also is kind of a revolutionary against the system. I'll talk more about his character, but there's a lot. It's a huge cast. Bob Hoskins is in here. Michael Palin, of course, Gilliam being from Monty Python. There's also a real Monty Python tone to Brazil as well, but there's just a really Ian Holm is in here, so just a really impressive cast of the mid 1980s. So I talk about the story a little bit as we follow Sam, and he's trying to break out of the system and try to live his own independent life. Brazil was partly inspired by Orwell's 1984, and apparently the original title was 1984 and a half that Gilliam wanted to do. Although, oddly enough, Gilliam claimed not to have read the book, so that's interesting. Whether he was being honest about that, who knows? But, of course, I had talked about the adaptation of Orwell's novel that came out the previous year by Michael Radford, which is a very straight adaptation of 1984. But Brazil is almost like an update of the novel, and it's not so much rooted in Orwell's themes. It takes things from the novel, it extracts things from the novel, but it also goes in directions that Orwell didn't really go in his book. A big theme in Brazil is technology as tyrannical, that in this future, someone might call it a retro future, where you have elements of the past, but you also have like some futuristic flourishes here and there. But the technology in this film, it's complicated, it glitchy, it's always breaking down all the time. It's weird, it's strange, it's annoying. It's like this organism you can never really understand, and as it's technology isn't really making life better for people. It's just making it more difficult and complicated, in some cases destroying people's lives. So that theme of technology and there's so much imagery in the film of ducks and pipes and cords and wires, just almost like, they'll rip open the walls, and the Robert De Niro character Tuttle will rip open walls, and it's as if he's doing surgery to try to repair these overly complicated organisms. And that's such a big part of the theme in Gilliam's film, is how maybe technology won't develop in ways that help society or civilization. Maybe it'll just make things worse. I'll let you be the judge if that's true or not. Bureaucracy is also a big theme in the film, which Orwell got into a little bit with his novel. Orwell wasn't concerned so much with technology. He was more concerned with how the state psychologically controls people. But so that's one difference between the two. But they do share this interest in bureaucracy, where with Jonathan Pryce's character, like, he doesn't really understand the whole system that he works in, and he gets a promotion to the Information Bureau, I think they call it, which is taken from Ministry of Information, taken from Orwell. And it's just, there appears to be someone in charge, but no one really knows who's in charge or what they're even doing. And even the way their computers look, it's like a weird hybrid of like an old-fashioned typewriter with a computer screen. So that was interesting. A big plot point is an innocent man gets thrown into prison and eventually executed based on a computer error between Tuttle and Buttle, and they arrest the wrong man in a movie that there's a lot of humor in it. But that scene where the secret police break down the door and steal this man from his family is a really, really frightening scene in many ways. But just how one computer glitch can cause the wrong person to go to prison. So that bureaucracy is a big theme. Paper is such a motif in the film as well, like just a really document obsessed culture, and how there's always the sound design in this film is so striking and complicated, but the sound of typing and printers putting out documents, and that's a big thing as well. Random violence, we see a lot in the film, how there are people resisting the system and resorting to violence to stop the system. But the whole idea where people have become inured or numb to the violence around them. Like there's a scene at a restaurant where an explosion happens, and it's really no big deal. People just kind of go about their business as if it's nothing at all. There's a big difference from Orwell. There's a real absurdist humor running through the film that, of course, is Gilliam bringing that Monty Python sensibility into it. So there's a lot of humor, despite how bleak this world is, and there's a lot of, like, they keep playing the song Brazil, which is this very upbeat song as a contrast to the darkness going on in this world. So those are some of the connections with Orwell. There's a lot of flipping of stereotypes in the film too, which is interesting. Like the Jonathan Pryce character, when he finally meets Jill, he is, it's as if they flipped gender stereotypes, where she's the one who was strong and collected and kind of keeps him going, whereas he is very emotional and frantic through their adventures. So there is that interesting stereotype thing going on. And De Niro as Tuttle, who is the least likely revolutionary, and what he does is, when people have problems with their systems in their homes, they have to call the government, but the government is very slow and inefficient to fix things. And De Niro goes around helping people as like this renegade, against the state. So that's another interesting flipping of stereotypes. a lot of influences with this film besides Orwell. Cinematically, there's a lot of Federico Fellini, like a film like Eight and a Half was a major influence on Brazil. There's a lot of German expressionism, those films from the 1920s, the Fritz Lang films, and a lot of those, the use of shadows and complicated cinematography and lighting, that a lot of that style from German expressionism is in Brazil. But Brazil has also been very influenced on the films that came after. I think like the Coen brothers, their film in particular, The Hudsucker Proxy, I think if you watch Brazil and that film back to back, you'd see a lot of connections between them. But other filmmakers like Tim Burton or Alex Proyas have also taken a lot from Brazil. Ryan Johnson has also talked about it being an influence on his filmmaking style. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Brazil. Just kind of a sketch, and didn't really go into too much detail about the film, but I just wanted to give kind of a brief review. If you've never seen the film, to give you some idea of what to expect, or if you've seen the film, and see what you think about some of my thoughts. But yeah, this film, it's very loud. It's a brash film. It's very much in your face, but it's also very singular. You know, you really get the sense that it really feels like a singular vision coming across. One last thing briefly, the release of this film. So it was released in Europe first throughout 1985, and when it came time to release it in America, the studio did not wanted to cut out the original runtime was like 2 hours and 20 minutes or so, and Hollywood wanted to cut out about 45 minutes and add a happy ending to the film. The original Gilliam's cut to this film does not have the happy ending, and I won't spoil that. But the Hollywood cut, which I think would air on American TV, on syndicated TV, slaps on this kind of happy ending. So that was, but there was a big battle over that as far as the final cut to the film and its release. So that's a little bit of a sidebar to the history of Brazil. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Brazil. Really, if you're into science fiction, 1980s, this is really a must-see. And yeah, if you like this era, I think you'll really enjoy it. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.